Did you lose an opportunity to interrogate by Mirandizing too soon? This was not a product of reflection that went all the way to the top. How can you say that?
Not.
How can you say that you have lost no valuable intelligence when a period elapses between the day or so after the bombing and 5 weeks before he renews his cooperation?
But, no, Savannah, he didn't just stop talking because he got Mirandized. He stopped talking because he was trained to stop talking.
That's
just
true.
Because you put somebody, but let's not simplify this. Just because you make somebody an enemy combatant doesn't make them talk.
No, wait a minute, Robert.
No. Take the case of.
I want to make the viewers familiar with the procedure.
Take the case of
Jose
Padilla.
If you Mirandize somebody, the investigators cannot go again to him and try to get him to talk. They cannot persuade him, cajole him, convince him. If he's just an enemy combatant, they do have the opportunity to go back immediately and try to get him to talk.
Savannah, you're greatly oversimplifying the process. If somebody isn't going to talk, it doesn't matter if they've been read their Miranda rights or not. Let me use the case of Jose Padilla. This is the case that Newt Gingrich famously mixed up just a few nights ago. First, he said Richard Reed was Mirandized because he was an American citizen. We've known for more than 8 years that Richard Reed is a British citizen. He said he meant Jose Padilla. Jose Padilla was made an enemy combatant so that we could get him to talk. And guess what happened when we made him an enemy combatant? He didn't talk. He did talk when he was transferred back into a civilian court. What has been done was this procedure was followed. The FBI protocols and procedures were followed. Agencies were consulted about how to get information and intelligence from this individual, and that's what's happened.
But
what
Robert,
you've seen is a series of
decision with no consultation with the FBI director.
The protocol that was established at the end of the last administration about how to deal with suspects in the FBI, which again was agreed upon by all these agencies, was the protocol that was followed. This wasn't some sort of surprise, but again, what we have here are politicians who've decided 8 years after they agreed that everything that was done right on Richard Reed somehow is now all done wrong because it's a different president. That's not law enforcement, that's politics, guys.
Well, but then I'm confused by this. Both the president, Robert Mueller in testimony, John Brennan on Meet the Press, all seem to hint, well, the next time, maybe we won't Mirandize so soon. All of them have hinted over the last 72 hours, and so is that not a tacit acknowledgement that maybe
Chuck,
you should, maybe you guys are changing your procedure on this?
Chuck, what the president asked everyone to do January 5th in the Situation Room was evaluate everything that happened in this process. We're not stubborn enough to think that everything we do on every occasion is right, okay? The military conducts after-action reports after a military exercise or a military procedure. That's the same thing that is happening here and now. And understand this, Chuck, the next time something happens, it's probably not going to be exactly as it happened this time. Just like what happened in Detroit wasn't exactly what had happened.
But you don't feel as if you
Richard Reed or in New York.
But it does sound like the government is concerned now, looking back, that you Mirandized too soon.
That's not true.
Robert, let's move on to this issue of civilian trials for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Would you acknowledge that there's a great amount of unpredictability in the civilian system? You many times have raised this issue of Moussaoui, the Moussaoui case, who was tried in the civilian system. As you are well aware, the government essentially lost that case. The only issue at trial was whether he should get the death penalty, and the jury spared him. How can you guarantee that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed there won't be something similar happening in that case? You can't guarantee the outcome there.
Let's understand. Let's not oversimplify this, Savannah. Let's understand for the American people that Moussaoui sits in a prison and will sit in a prison for the rest of his life, as will Richard Reed for the rest of his life. There's an overwhelming case against Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. There's an overwhelming case against his co-conspirators. Civilian courts, as has been recognized by both the Bush administration and the Obama administration, have a fantastic record of getting convictions and bringing about justice.
Right, fair enough, but for example, in civilian court, a defense lawyer could easily bring a motion at the beginning of the case and say there has been outrageous government conduct here. This guy was waterboarded 183 times, and you can't stop a federal judge from just throwing that case out. Are you prepared for that contingency?
I don't think that's what's going to happen, Savannah. I'm sure that Defense Counsel will make any series of motions, but understand this: the American people are not scared of bringing justice through the American justice system. I think that's what's going to happen in this case. I said on a news show a few weeks ago, and I'm sure the lawyers didn't really like it, I think Khalid Sheikh Mohammed will meet his maker at the end of this process.
Well,
He'll
let me
be
ask
executed.
you.
I was just going to say, both you and the president said that to me, actually, in China in an interview. And, you know, what does that say? Do you worry that you somehow have kangaroo courted up our own justice
How
system?
can you hold up the American justice system as a model of fairness and
guaranteeing an
impartiality
outcome.
when you and the president himself have guaranteed the outcome?
Well, I haven't guaranteed the outcome. I'm saying the outcome, here's what I believe the outcome is going to be based on the overwhelming evidence in the case, based on the fact that he's admitted that he did all this. I think that the murder of 3,000 people on American soil is going to garner the death penalty. I think Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and his co-conspirators will meet their maker because of a justice system that works, an overwhelming amount of evidence to convict, and the likelihood that upon that conviction, the death penalty will be brought for the murder of 3,000 people. I think that's very easy to see.
One final question. You're losing the politics of this issue on civilian trials. You've seen the polls. I've seen the polls. The criticism I've seen on the left on this issue of you guys is you're not politically selling this well enough. What can you do better? Do you accept that criticism that you're not doing a good job selling this policy?
Well, look, I accept the criticism that this is a very complex issue and it's a difficult one for the American people to weigh through. Look, I understand that.